Podcasting from beautiful Leesburg, Virginia. Welcome to the Music Educator podcast, bringing you tips, tricks, and practical advice that you can use tomorrow. Here's your host and fellow music educator, Bill Stevens.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Music Educator podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here today. My name is Bill Stevens. I will be your host for today. And today in Season 2, Episode 15 of the Music Educator podcast, we're going to talk about tips for brass tone production. Can't wait. Let's get started. Tips for brass tone production. First, we're going to talk about tone production. And the number one most important musical element in performing is having a quality tone production. And in this podcast, we'll discuss issues and tips for brass instrument tone production. Each instrumental family produces sound in many different ways, and it's helpful to review what is necessary to create a fantastic tone, whether it is to create the perfect buzz, manipulate how to breathe, or change the mouthpiece pressure. A character sound instantly sets apart the impact a brass musician has on his or her audience and the overall musical experience. Several factors contribute to creating a quality tone, and it is conceivable that two players on the same type of instrument with the same model of mouthpiece can create two very different tone qualities. Sound production differences include the size and shape of the oral cavity, the breath supply, and how well it's supported, and the openness of the throat, and the lip aperture. To buzz or not to buzz. To create a sound on a brass instrument, you must create vibrations that cause a buzz. And this concept directly relates to the lip aperture, which is present when a brass player first attempts to produce a tone on the instrument. Some teachers follow the idea that beginning brass musicians should buzz their lips for about a week without the instrument. By the third week, students should have the ability to create a quality buzz on the instrument. Achieving this goal is accomplished with the mouthpiece or a visualizer. For a moment, consider that the lips do buzz and vibrate. However, try to introduce a more free and open tone by creating the aperture large and not forcing the lips to strike each other, as opposed to the lips hitting each other as they do when they free buzz. Now consider experimenting and following these steps to create this more open sound. Step 1. Start by making a buzz on the tuning concert B flat. While sustaining the pitch, bring the instrument toward the mouthpiece. Slowly insert the mouthpiece into the receiver. This action should naturally allow the instrument to produce the sound of the B-flat concert. Step 2. Next, enlarge the lip aperture within the mouthpiece. This time, make sure there is no buzz, but use the same airspeed and embouchure muscle support. Now follow the same process as in step 1, and a B-flat concert should sound once the mouthpiece is about halfway into the receiver. Step 3. Next, reverse the procedure. Do this by removing the mouthpiece from the instrument while playing the B-flat concert. The opposite of steps 1 and 2 will take place. When you remove the mouthpiece from the instrument, you will find that the buzz will re-engage due to the tight aperture. In contrast, when you remove the mouthpiece from the instrument, as in step 2, with a large aperture, there will be no buzz and only air will sound. Step 4. Now hold the mouthpiece with your right hand, thumb, index, and middle fingers. Using the same open aperture, airspeed, and embouchure muscle support, slowly cover the mouthpiece with the tip of your left hand index finger. Once you have covered 1/2 to 2/3 of the mouthpiece hole, the tuning B-flat concert should begin to buzz audibly. Step 5. Finally, roll the left hand index finger down and the buzz will stop. Only the sound of air passing through the mouthpiece will result. Both forms of oscillation produce a sound, and with the open aperture, the tone begins when the resonance contributes to the airflow. This resistance causes a reflection of the sound waves within the instrument and causes the lips to close as a result of oscillation. The general idea of this exercise is that greater tone resistance can result in a more open aperture. And to clarify this, it's not to say that the technique will work on all players and mouth shapes. However, this is an excellent teaching approach for struggling and beginning brass students to create a more open sound. Oral cavities. Brass players can improve their tonal resonance by enlarging their oral cavities as much as possible. To achieve this feat, you must separate the teeth and the lower jaw must be pulled down. The tongue should be at the bottom of the mouth and resemble the vocal shape as if you were going to sing ah. However, this technique will not work in the upper ranges since the tongue must be arched to increase the airspeed for the high range. And to produce a characteristic sound, he or she must play in the center of the tonal interior. And that is the focal point in which the player has the most brilliant quality, firm, and resonant sound. Students should always strive to find this sweet spot in their sound. And generally, with a quality instrument, that sweet spot is where intonation is correct. If this is not the case, then adjustments and alternate fingerings may be needed to find that perfect spot where quality and tone intersect. Breath concept. To create a quality brass tone, playing with a combination of support and relaxation is absolutely required. It is essential to understand that support does not mean tension. The idea of support centers around the idea that the abdominal wall muscles push the internal organs below the diaphragm, and as a result, this lifts the diaphragm and supports the air column. The air column is then manipulated by the support of the embouchure muscle to create the, quote, supported airstream. For the body to work effectively, the body needs the most natural means for supporting the air to create a beautiful tone. Therefore, it is essential to relax the diaphragm muscles, intercostal muscles surrounding the chest, the muscles of the neck, the shoulders, throat, and tongue. Open throat. Now, if you have tension in the throat, it will be impossible for you to create a free, open tone on any brass instrument. Think of maintaining an open, unobstructed air pathway comparable to singing. Similarly, it is essential to remember that the neck and the shoulders need to remain relaxed because the tension in these areas will distort the tone production. Tonal concept. Now, the tonal concept is the understanding that a brass player knows what the ideal sound should be for their instrument. The development of this skill can be improved by listening to recordings of great examples of musicians on their instruments. Also, going to and participating in respected ensembles that demonstrate high-quality musicianship reinforces the musician's ear and tonal concept. Refining your tone. For brass players, improving your tone production can be done through regular long tone and lip slur practices. Don't allow students to play long tones mindlessly. Instead, remind students that the tone must stay consistent throughout the dynamic range of the instrument. Students tend to be more successful with the softer dynamics. However, when they get louder, the tone tends to get harsher. And as a result, muscles which should be in a state of relaxation are tensing up when the airflow is increased. And as a result, students are overblowing. This act occurs because the students are pushing the pitch beyond its tonal center. Mouthpiece pressure. Mouthpiece pressure has a direct correlation to tone quality. As a result, problems and issues manifest for brass players. Many times, music educators stress not to use the mouthpiece pressure when performing. However, this is not a realistic expectation. Yes, the mouthpiece pressure should be minimal. However, some mouthpiece pressure is required to create a seal when lips touch the mouthpiece. And as the brass player plays high, the more airspeed is needed. As a result, slightly more mouthpiece pressure is required to keep this seal. If too much mouthpiece pressure is used, the musician's tone will have a forced, tense, and pinched quality to it. In turn, it may damage the embouchure. With too little pressure, the tone will sound weak and thin. Also, excessive stress can result in incorrect hand positions. Improper hand position can also lead to excessive pressure. Start by having the student relax the left hand grip. Then carefully observe the right hand position. Now, if any aspect of the right hand is tense, encourage the student to relax. Work on this by having the student practice in the mid-range of the instrument with a relaxed grip. As this becomes more natural, the student should gradually increase his or her range while focusing on relaxed muscles. The double buzz. The double buzz or double oscillation is created due to a unique circumstance dealing with mouthpiece pressure. As a result, this occurs when a student plays a note and has an audible, distorted buzz of another pitch that occurs while creating the initial pitch. Essentially, this is a double buzz. Consequently, this is somewhat comparable to when a string instrument is performing a double stop. The double buzz occurs when the lips are fatigued, and a second oscillation occurs in the lips. Unequal distribution of the mouthpiece weight on both the top and bottom lips is often the cause of this double buzz. The problem can be resolved by moving the lower jaw forward slightly. As a result, this tends to equalize the pressure. Also, you can slightly alter the angle of the instrument. On other occasions, it is the increase of support needed in the corners of the embouchure. Final thoughts. In conclusion, it is essential to stress the importance of quality tone production for all brass students. Brass instrument sound production relies on a series of strategies to foster a quality resonant and open tone. And through rigorous exercises relating to buzzing, breathing, and mouthpiece pressure usage, every student musician has an opportunity to be successful as a performer. Please take an opportunity to work with your brass students and challenge yourself as the educator to improve their tone quality. You might find that doing so, you have increased the performance potential of your entire ensemble. That's all I have for today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Music Educator podcast for the latest tips, tricks, and practical advice you can use tomorrow. You can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Please visit the Music Educator blog at www.forthemusiceducator.com for additional posts and music education news. As always, join in the discussion and let your voice be heard by providing feedback at www.forthemusiceducator@gmail.com or leave a Google voicemail at 703-942-9883. We will see you on the next episode of the Music Educator podcast, and remember, music can change the world.